So you're trying to decide what software platform to use for your law practice, and you have all these options and you're trying to figure out which bells and whistles you want or which one will be the best for your particular practice. I'm Josh Gerben, and I started a law firm about 11 years ago, and we've been dealing with this issue since day one, and I'm here to tell you how we handled it and how I suggest you think about software for your law practice.
Welcome to the Josh Gerben Show, because law school didn't teach business.
Hi everybody, I'm Josh Gerben and welcome to episode 13 of the Josh Gerben Show. Today we're going to talk about software platforms for your law firm. This is something that I struggled with over the years, and I know a lot of other attorneys struggle with in trying to figure out what software should we run our law firm on, right? Because there's all these practice management softwares out there. We're constantly bombarded by advertisement for them. And what I'm going to tell you is I don't think any one of them are any good. You may find for your particular practice that one may work, and you use it. But I think that there's a ton of pressure on lawyers and law firms to choose a particular practice management software that's supposed to be your everything. And I don't think any one of the products on the marketplace really works for everything you need to do. So the first thing I really want to talk about today is not feeling guilty or not feeling like you should be able to find a software that works for your practice. Because most practices are unique. And these out-of-the-box cookie-cutter softwares that these companies try to develop simply may not work for your practice. And that's okay. It's okay to say, hey, wait, none of this really works for me. And I need to come up with my own software stack and looking at different things that work for different areas of my practice. And then you put it all together, and now you have your own custom group of softwares that helps you manage and run your law practice. So let's start by saying, if any of you out there disagree with me and you think you've got the greatest software platform to run a law firm from, please, in the comments to the show, let us have it. Let us know what your software does and why other lawyers should use it. Or if you're a lawyer and you've used one, let us know which one you really like. But what I have found over the years in running a practice where there's literally thousands of clients is that any one of these off-the-shelf softwares are just so cumbersome to use that we end up spending more time trying to use it than it's worth. So we come up with individual software solutions for the different areas of our practice that we need to address. And I find there's really 5 areas that you need to address for any law firm as it relates to software. The first is your email system, which I think email is the backbone of any modern law firm. So choosing an email system wisely is very important. The second is you need to have something to help you with docketing and calendaring deadlines, right? The third is we need something to manage all of our files. The fourth is we need a contact management software so that we can manage the contact information for our clients, even do newsletters, mailings, things like that. And the final and perhaps most important of all, billing software, a way to keep track of time, what clients owe us, and be able to send bills and track payments. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we at our firm do not just use one piece of software. It would be impossible for us to use anything that we've found, and we've tested just about everything, right? And the problem becomes is that to enter in all the information and to use these software platforms, they're so clunky and time consuming that it just doesn't work for us. So let me go through the software stack that we've used and try to show you how you can pull things together to actually make a law firm work extremely efficiently. So the first, I think, revolves around choosing how you're going to run your email. I think every lawyer in the world defaults to Microsoft Office, and I get that, but I don't think it's the solution going forward. We've been using Gmail for probably the last 6 or 7 years, Google Gmail. It has an enterprise side to it, and I think it's fantastic. It takes a little while to get used to, but once you get used to it, the benefit of Gmail is there's a lot of different plugins that can go with it. And now you can start to do a lot of really cool things with your email as far as efficiency is concerned that you might not be able to do with the Microsoft product. Also, it doesn't require any kind of server or anything like that. You're working off of Google servers, wherever they may be. And knock on wood, we've never really had any downtime in the time we've used Google. I think some firms, end up having downtime with their email because of a server issue or this, that, or the other. Typically with Google, it's an extremely smooth experience. So I highly recommend you look at that because, again, you get out of that Microsoft world and all of a sudden a lot more becomes possible. So going right in line with your email is the file management. All the files you create for clients, how do you do that? And again, going back to Google, we use Google Drive. Google Drive allows you to basically store your client files and access them from anywhere that you would log into a computer. I think this is extremely helpful, again, for a number of reasons. One, I don't have an on-site server that, a fire destroys the building and I've got a problem. Two, if anything happens to my actual computer I work from, again, doesn't matter. Move to another computer, log back in, have access to all of the client files we need. Plus, our team can share files. Somebody can work on a file and get a paralegal to make an edit to it. If different attorneys need to collaborate on a document, there's all sorts of collaboration tools. It is a great system. And yeah, there may be others out there, but I can tell you, I doubt there's any others out there that are as inexpensive as Google Drive when you combine it with Google Email to use. It's just, the cost is almost, I don't want to tell Google this, but they really should increase what they're charging us for how much value we're getting out of it. But I think if you experiment with Google Drive, there's more than enough there. You don't need a formal file management software, for most small, law firms that are going to be, on the boutique side. Now, you start getting into 25, 30 attorneys, maybe you need to look at that solution a little differently. But my experience with, a handful of attorneys, a bunch of support staff, more than capable Google Drive is of handling what we needed to do for file management. So the next thing we all really need to be concerned with as attorneys is how are we docketing and calendaring all of our deadlines. In the trademark world, which is where I am, there's actually programs out there that say, hey, if you just put the trademark number in, we'll docket everything for you. That's great, but what happened is that the PTO cut off access to their data point, and then all of a sudden these companies couldn't guarantee that their information was as up to date as it should be. So relying on anybody to help you with docketing, I think, is really always dangerous because there's so many things that have to go right for that service to continue. So we always look at, okay, our attorneys are going to set the deadlines and we're going to put the item in our calendar and we're going to go from there. We've gone through our various different iterations with how to calendar and docket things. One of the innovations that we have used in the past 12 to 24 months is a program called Streak. It's STREAK, and it actually integrates with Gmail, going back to my Gmail comment. So what happens is as we're working on an email, alongside it is essentially the digital file. And we can go in there and set whatever case deadlines we want for a particular case. Just, email's open, you're in there, and we can say, okay, we want to be reminded in 6 months we have this deadline. We want to be reminded in 2 months to check on the status. And as soon as you put those reminders in, what will happen is when the deadline comes up or whatever the reminder is, it'll generate an email to you that comes back in your email box and says, hey, this is due, or a reminder, you were supposed to check on the status. So it's extremely easy. You don't have to, it's not bulky. I don't have to open up a whole nother software platform, right? I can be on my laptop working away and it's right there, 2 deadlines, and I'm done. As opposed to having to open up a calendaring system, go into it, type it in, make sure it probably saves me several minutes on every email that I'm working on, which when you multiply that over the course of days, weeks, months, and years is an incredible time savings. So again, that's a very custom solution for what we need. It might not work for every law firm, but I don't think you need a formal docketing software that is made by a docketing company. All they are calendars that send reminders. And think of it that way and make sure you have something when you use it that's very reliable. And also make sure you can back it up. I mean, one of the biggest concerns we have with all the deadlines that we have is that if something happens to this software program, how do we know what deadlines are coming up? So we have everything downloaded, we have everything saved and constantly backed up that we could recreate in yet another program should anything happen. So a little bit of continuity issue there, but for any docketing or calendaring system, just remember, don't feel the need to go to a legal provider for this. I don't think it's necessary. You can certainly get it done with other softwares that traditionally are not used by lawyers, and you may find they're even better. So the next point I wanted to cover was contact management. I think a lot of these companies that create softwares for lawyers think that we have to have this contact management. We have all these different... I mean, at a certain point, how much do you really need? And so what we do is we have the contact information in that streak program so that we know who we're working with. And that helps us identify, as a client may work with different people in our firm, who the points of contact are for particular issues for a particular client. So we can track all that very easily. And as far as the marketing side goes, if we want to do newsletters, whether it be email or print, and mail newsletters, or other forms of advertisements to our client base, we use MailChimp, which is basically a lot of businesses use it just to have their contacts in there and be able to use it for marketing purposes. And it's something that's just completely separate from our day-to-day stuff that we do. But this way here, we're able to control our mailing list and curate that in a very unique way, and it not be integrated with every other moving part of the firm. So there could be very custom things we're trying to do with that particular list that we can just move the data there and deal with it in that particular program, have our marketing folks deal with it completely separately and out of the hair of all the other stuff that we're doing from the legal side. And the final point to address is billing, and this is obviously critical, and I think this is another area where a lot of these law firm platforms really try to come up with these bells and whistles. But again, all we're talking about here is tracking time, and we're talking about maybe tracking expenses, and if you're doing flat rates like we are, tracking what you're putting those flat rates into a billing software. And we've been using FreshBooks. Now I'll tell you that we have some limitations with it, and it's not the greatest. There's things that they could do better for us. But if you look at all the other solutions that are out there, just being able to put the client information in FreshBooks, go in there, there's a little timer that you can use, you can custom enter whatever expenses you need to put in, categorize them however you need to do it, track your payments, track who hasn't paid you. Very, very easy software platform to use. And again, it's not this cumbersome thing where you have to log into your massive practice management software and get to the billing site for a particular client and then start. It's always open on the computer, a little timer, drop down menu, select a client, and you go. And then you record. And it's very simple to do as you're working all day long, doesn't take a lot of time. So as you can see, we've really focused at our firm at pulling together efficient ways of doing various different tasks and just having different software programs. And I think, some people say, oh, that's got to get confusing, and it's really not. It might take a week or two for a new employee to get to learn our system, to get to feel comfortable with all the different programs we use. But once you get going, each program is so good at its own particular thing and so efficient at its own particular thing. You're not dealing with this massive, cumbersome gorilla of a program that you just have to work your way through to do little small tasks. So I hope you found this helpful. I think one of the things when I started my firm, I was always so I have to use one of these legal practice management softwares. This is what everybody does. This is what you have to do to make sure you don't have a malpractice claim, because you got to make sure your calendar is perfect. And yeah, your calendar has to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be through a law practice management software. And I think dispelling that myth is incredibly, incredibly important. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'll talk to you next time.